Oh, hold on. Hello, how's it going? It is I, Tenzin, with another episode of SOS. Tonight we'll be talking to a marriage and family therapist. And oh, hey, she's on time. Look at her. I love when my guests actually join on time. Hold on, I'm trying to send that request there. Accept. Did it accept? Oh,
Hey
she
Marcus,
joined.
yes, I try to be on time for everything.
You're a little laggy. Hold on, let me see. Am I moving smoothly or
For
am I
me,
lagging?
you're smooth for me.
All right, you're smooth too. So,
Mhm.
Praysha Renee Malone Spearman. Or should I call you? Hold on. I know what your real name is now.
Clearly you do. I'm
Your
like,
real name
you knew
is.
my
Hold
whole,
on.
but you also knew me before I was Spearman. So
Wait,
Praysha Renee Spearman is the
but
full
I know
name
your
now. I've
code name
exchanged out
too.
what?
I know your code name too.
My code name? I have a
Mm-hmm.
code name? Oh,
MFT001602.
that's my government. That's my government.
Well, Praise, just it feels good to see you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not in the flesh, but I mean, I get to see your face live on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Good to see
man.
you too, Marcus.
So a little quick aside. This is totally off topic, but you remember that it was an organization you introduced me to. It was called P4CM.
Yes.
Okay. So like they had this series, right, where I actually appreciated them for it, to an extent, obviously.
Yeah.
But where they would like, examine like rap lyrics and, like teach kids, hey, actually listen to what they're saying. I appreciated that to an extent. But I remember this one dude, I think he was like Hispanic guy, he was very butthurt about black Christianity's favorite enemy, Jay-Z. It was that New York song. And like, it was like a line on there where it was like, kids in the church, Jesus can't save you. Like, and Homeboy was just mad, right? He was like, how dare he say Jesus can't do something? And I'm just like, that's clearly a metaphor for the kids not listening. Calm down.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just thought that was funny. That
Yeah,
guy.
so I know you haven't asked me any questions yet, but what you're talking about to me kind of relates to something I was talking. I'm trying to think, was I talking to you about it or someone else about this recently? About oh, well, you're the one who asked me about the incident that happened to me in college, or you mentioned that
Yeah.
you read about it. Um, and that whole time in my life, because I was in school to become a therapist and had never done therapy before that incident.
Mm.
So that incident, and then also just what I was learning in school to become a therapist was it really made me dig really deep into my faith, my beliefs, but also why was I not seeing what, like, some of the things I was seeing through therapy I had never seen before, right?
Mm.
So I was like, in terms of people being able to experience certain types of change, Um, so the fact that I was seeing that in a secular arena being taught to me in a liberal school with
Wait, you
completely,
consider Valdosta liberal?
I thought it was a liberal arts school. Is that not what it is called?
I I
Liberal
mean
art?
I know I think it started off that way, like a college for women. But all right, don't let that tangent distract. Go ahead with what you're saying.
So yeah, that I anyway, you bringing up the Jay-Z lyrics and Jesus can't save you being the lyric. That's I mean, I don't know all the song like that, but I can also imagine the metaphor being like there's certain things that it's like you can pray, you can believe, you can do a lot of things, but then there's just certain principles that are put in place that work for everyone, regardless of what your faith
Right.
is. And like, you can be a Christian or you can be um, an atheist or you could be anything else. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
not putting certain principles or not aware of certain principles
Mm-hmm.
or how to use them, stuff is going to go wrong. It's going to
Yeah.
hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be disappointed,
Oh,
you know.
thank goodness. And it's and it's good that there are Christian voices like yourself that is an advocate for therapy because oh man, my eyes be wanting to roll out of my head when these niggas be like, "You just gotta pray." Like, no, they need a therapist too. Okay, like,
You know, and I feel the same way. It depends on context because there's a lot of things I've personally seen prayer do a lot, but
uh-huh,
um, it depends on the context because if there's a misunderstanding of of the role of counseling and therapy, biblically speaking, the Bible calls the Holy Spirit uh, the great counselor. That's one of his names. And so the fact that people don't put that together with the fact that perhaps the Holy Spirit or God would want to operate through people, such as very skilled, talented, and even anointed therapists.
look,
So when people don't make that connection, I understand it culturally that, therapy used to be just for crazy people. So, you got to jump over those hurdles of what people assume therapy is. And even what it means to be, it's one thing to go seek out Christian therapy. It's another thing to go to therapy um, with someone who happens to be a Christian. You're going to receive two different types of services and not, I mean, with every therapist you see, you're going to get something different. Let me just be clear.
oh yeah, of
Um,
course.
yeah, but in terms of how they work and what they specialize in,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I
you do.
like that. See, look, we got to say whatever we need to say to get those churchy folks into the therapy office. And so, yes, I'm going to start using that now. The Holy Spirit is a great counselor and is speaking through people. But you kind of
Well,
jumped
you
ahead
better
a
know
little
your
bit.
scripture reference if you're going to do that. You better know what scripture you're referencing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll just
You
be
can
like, Praysha,
comment.
what's that? What's that? But okay, we kind of jumped ahead a bit. I was gonna mention the that traumatic experience. Do you mind? Would you mind going into detail about it?
Into detail, sure.
I mean, just
I'll
like
give some
just
detail.
say what, like, not like every gruesome detail, but just to
No, no,
just
just
tell the
ask
audience
me.
what happened. And
Okay, so when I was in college, I was in graduate school. This is a school I'd already been at for how long had I been at Valdosta? 5 years plus. I was in my first year of graduate school, so 6 years. So I was familiar with where I was. I was actually, for those of you who are familiar with school, I was in Drexel Park. Um,
Drexel, I used to smoke there.
well, I was just sitting down having a conversation. Hey, some of my friends are joining, and then they know about Valdosta State. So anyway, I was in Drexel Park, and what happened was it started to get dark. So when me and my friend got there, it was light. It was like, close to sunset, but not quite. We talked for so
Yeah,
long that the sun went down. And we were sitting in an area where there were some bushes nearby, big bushes nearby, kind of
hmm,
behind us. And there was, if you remember, the sidewalk wraps around two sides of the
yeah,
park. So I was watching people walk by on the sidewalk, and the cars are going by. So I'm thinking, I can see them, people can see us. We're not necessarily alone in the dark having a
right,
conversation. And I didn't want to end the conversation because the person, I'm not going to say it was kind of like a therapy session, but it was a friend confiding in me. And I
right,
didn't want to, interrupt them. Now I know better. I will interrupt now and be like, hey, let's move this conversation somewhere else.
yeah,
But at the time, I saw two males, unfortunately African American males. And I say it
I'm
this way
mad you put your
because
white voice on for that one. African Americans.
African American, I do have, I guess you can call it a white voice, but I have a,
No,
I'm
you
not
like it's
typical.
like you made it extra white. You know what I'm saying? I know, like when you call the cops, like get down here now. Just like. But go ahead.
But let's see. So I saw these two guys walk in front of us, but it's like they were walking far enough away from us that it could seem like they weren't like concerned about us. But I
Right.
don't know what it was. There was something about in that moment as they were walking by. I was in my mind, I was like, they're too close. And they were like nowhere near us. But in my mind, something went very alert. They walked by, I saw them, I watched them, I was talking to my friend, and then they went towards the school and went out of sight. So I had a glass mason jar in my hand that had like water and cucumbers in it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I remember I had it in my hand, and when they walked by, I don't know if it was the first time or the second time when I saw them. They came back the exact same way across went in front of us, and I no, it had to be when they went that way because there's no reason why, unless when they were walking back, that's when I went, okay, I'm just gonna.
Mm.
I sat the mason jar in my hands and sat up straight. I was sitting like this towards my friend. I moved like
Yeah.
this and put it in my hands. I don't know what I was thinking I was going to do with the mason jar, but in my head I could throw it at one of their heads. Like that's how alert, I felt. And all these guys were walking by. And when I say they were far enough away, they were I'm trying to give you an idea. Like they were a good at least 30 to 40 feet away from us. So it's not like they were anywhere near us. It was just something stood up in me, like something's up, especially when they came back. When they came back, because I'm familiar with this area, I'm like, there is nowhere that they went that quickly and turned around and
Mm-hmm.
came back. Why did they turn around and come back? There's nothing over there. So, um, so when they walked past us the second time and disappeared behind trees and stuff, or down the sidewalk, I guess, um, I remember telling myself to relax. I turned back to my friend, right, Kayla? That's my friend, Kayla. So, um, I turned back to my friend and continued listening to her. And in my head, I was like, now, this friend that I was talking to was Caucasian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I was like, Praysha, why are you tripping right now? Your friend is she's white and she's totally unconcerned about these two black guys, right? I
Right.
told myself to relax. And it's crazy because I relaxed. I started listening to her. It wasn't 5 minutes later that these guys came from these bushes behind us, these huge bushes, with bandanas on their faces. One of them had a gun a gun visibly in his hand. He held it to my friend's neck, and the other one pretended to point a gun at me. I don't know what it was, but it was in the pocket of his jacket, pointing it at me. They come out yelling, "Get down! Get down! Get down!" Now, they probably yelled get down because as soon as they came out, I jumped up off of where I was sitting and was ready to run away. So we were on this bench. Let's see if I can do it this way. So we're on this bench. I'm sitting here, my friend is here. They come from this side. He's holding a gun here. The other guy is behind the bench pointing a gun at me. I jump up with my mason jar and run this way. And the reason I went this way is because our cars are in the parking lot over here. I'm trying to run to my car or to the police. I know that there's a police the little blue light thing that they used to have
Hmm.
in the middle of the parking lot. Anyway, that was the direction I was running. So, as I was running away, the guy is like hesitating to run after me. He's yelling, "Get down!" But honestly, I looked in his eyes. I felt like I got him. Like I'm out of here. And I'm not afraid of you. Like shoot me if you want to, but I'm running. But then I was like, I saw that my friend wasn't moving. Well, the guy had her
Right.
by her clothes and was holding her at gunpoint, and she's screaming my name, and I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen to her if I run away?
Right.
And I know, and I think, I don't know if I knew what they were like, if they had said, give me your phone, or if I knew at that moment what they were looking for. But in my mind, I was like, I know she doesn't have anything on her. I don't even think she had her car keys on her. I think she left them in her car. And so in my mind goes to these two black guys left with a white girl who, and they have her at gunpoint. If they don't find anything else they want, is it possible that they might rape her? You know, like
Mm.
that's where my mind jumped to. So, um, hmm. So I stopped running and I turn around and I face the guy who's semi running after me. And I go, okay, wait. And he goes, get down, get down, get down. So I'm like this, okay, wait. Like, hold on. I get on the ground and I'm like this. And he's like, give me your phone. And I go, is that all you want? And he goes, is that all you got? Then he goes towards my pockets. So I reach in
Uh-huh.
my pocket before he could get to it and pull out my phone and give it to him. And then I'm like this, and he has the phone, and he turns to his partner, yells at him, and shows him, I got a phone. Like, let's go. So they run off. And when they run off, we're watching them run off. We're kind of frozen in this moment. We just watch them run off because we're like, in my head, are they gonna come back with new ideas?
Right.
So then I go to my friend and I'm like, let's get out of here. We go to the parking lot. Somebody's driving out of the parking lot. So I stop them and say, did you just see that? And they're like, no. Can you call the cops for us? We just got robbed at gunpoint. So they called. We got to our cars. Thankfully, we still had our car keys. The police told us to wait where we were. They showed up within, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. And the whole time, my friend is freaking out. The whole time before the cops got there, after they got there. And so I'm just like really, really like how I am right now, just like pretty calm, like let's do this or that. I don't even remember what we did while we waited. We just waited. And I basically just let her freak out and I just like I don't know what I did other than just go,
Hmm.
yeah, that was crazy. Like I don't even know what I did. So cops got there, gave them the report. I got home. I'm gonna fast forward to when I got home, and this is why when you said what happened, I'm like, okay, you read the story online, so I guess you want the real story. This is the real story. Everything that I'm telling you is basically what happened. So then, I got home, and I lived with my sister and my best friend at the time. I believe I don't remember if my best friend was home because I might have told her what happened, and then my sister, but what I remember is telling my sister what happened. She was on the phone with somebody when I walked into her room, and I was like, "I'm okay. I'm okay. I just wanted to let you know that this just happened." And
Right.
um, she was like, "You're okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And she was just like, "Okay, let me finish this." And so she's talking, and I leave her room and I go into my room and I close the door. And I don't know what I was supposed to be doing in that moment, but all I remember is that I broke down crying.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the realization that literally that was a life-threatening situation and my life
Right.
could have ended finally hit me. And the fact that I was not freaking out was weird. Um, I cried the whole night. I did fall asleep at some point. I don't even remember my sister or anyone. I think I might have gone back to my sister's room, like, I'm like all tore up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Realizing, the next day I had to go to work. I was working as a graduate student. You may know Miss Darla from Valdosta. She worked in the housing department for a long time. Anyway, I worked for Miss Darla and um, went to work. I think as soon as I hit the door or as soon as I got in my office, I started crying. I was crying on the way to work.
Mm.
I was like, gotta suck this up
Right.
and go to work. Gotta make this money. And I got in the office and I couldn't hold it.
Mm.
It was weird to me, but I just could not stop crying. So of course, she called me into her office, or I maybe went into her office, told her what happened. Um, and I was so grateful. She was like, we could set you up an emergency counseling session. That's what we're going to do. You go home. We're going to schedule you an emergency counseling session today. I was so grateful. Well, at the time, I was just like, okay, kind of like, don't know how helpful that will be, but yeah, definitely for
Mm-hmm.
it. And I remember sitting in the waiting room and like thinking well, first of all, it's kind of cool. This is my first counseling session. Me training to be a therapist in school to become a therapist, and I'm like, well, at least I can say I've done counseling now.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really interested to be in the client seat because I was already training to be in the therapist seat,
Right.
and but also with everything that happened, that was very real for me. So um, I so I I was expecting to go into therapy to have to see her for like multiple times over the course of maybe, I don't know, 6 months or something. I'm just making something up, or
Right.
3 months in a semester, whatever. Um, and my phone just told me that I needed to charge it, so forgive me for that. Hopefully it will stay up. Stick this next to it so it will stay up because I don't have anything holding it up. Actually, I should put it on this thing that would hold it up. Okay,
I just
so I'm
use
gonna
the
keep
strength of
talking
my
while I'm doing
arms.
this. I can make this happen. Hold on, I
Oh,
have the equipment.
jeez.
I just have never
We're
used it
facing
before.
technical difficulties, everybody.
I know, right? Cliffhanger. Hold on, let me put it here. Sorry, guys. Okay, bam, it worked.
Hey, are we
All
back?
right, um, so like I was saying, so I was expecting whatever I was expecting about therapy. So when I went, I started venting. I was like, you know, I'm actually in school to be a therapist right now. And so, yeah, it's kind of crazy because this is my first time in therapy, but this is what happened to me. And then I just went through the whole story of what I just told you.
Mm-hmm.
She stopped me at one point. I think at the point where I was telling her and I just can't stop crying or whatever. Um, she stopped me. I just remember she kind of interrupted me
Mm-hmm.
while I was talking. And she started to share with me what was happening in my brain. What happens when we experience trauma, what is helpful, what's natural for our brains to do, um, and how things would heal and get better as I continue to share my story within safe spaces, for example. She was like, yeah, the fact that you shared with your sister and you shared with your other friend, and, when you're in a safe space, and you're sharing the story, your brain basically learns that you're safe now, even though that memory
Yeah,
is being
you
wiped
mentioned
away.
that in the blog about it too. You said like as you mentioned, the more you talk about it in a comfortable environment, the more your brain registers it. So whereas like it's no longer necessarily haunting you, it's like it's just something that happened, and you're just able to live with it better.
Yeah, that it's not something threatening to your life right now, basically.
Hmm. And
Yes, go
and
ahead.
and I just want to ask, I guess like how long did it take you to be able to actually be able to tell this story like as comfortably as you are today? Like,
Well, I told you the next day I was venting about it in
hmm
therapy, and her telling me that um about the helpfulness of being able to share it in safe spaces made me pretty comfortable, not necessarily afraid to share it. Talking about it has never really been an issue for me.
right,
But what I did find interesting after that time, I would say maybe even a few months later, I noticed that there was a time I was in a parking lot again in Valdosta. So, you know, the gravel parking lots over
hmm
on the other side of,
like kind of like near Georgia Hall or
yeah, the other side of
okay,
Georgia. Yeah.
yeah,
So I was over there in one of those small gravel parking lots. So there's trees around it, and I had to go out to my car by myself. And I remember going out there and suddenly feeling very like
mm,
I think I made the mistake of not getting my keys out until I got into the parking lot. So I was fiddling to get my keys and feeling extremely anxious. Well, I shouldn't say extremely, but I was feeling really anxious and thinking about the situation. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I do not want to feel like this every time I have to go to my car. First of all, let me make sure I get my keys. I'm
yeah,
pretty consistent now of getting my keys before I even leave wherever I'm at. Um, but I realized through talking about it, through processing why I felt that anxious or what about that situation like triggered me to feel anxious, I realized the crime that happened to me was a crime of opportunity.
mm,
And you know, they I've never been sitting there before. There's no way they could have. Well, I mean, I guess unless this is actually a frequent thing where they walk through the park and just see who's there and actually do that frequently. But even then, it's still, even if it's
yeah. It
premeditated
was
in
just you
that
were just
sense,
there.
yeah, I just happen to be the person there. So to me, that was a crime of opportunity. I provided the opportunity for that to happen. So
Mm,
yeah, I've
I, I don't know. That phrasing sounds a little funny. You're not blaming yourself.
No, I'm not
Okay,
blaming
okay, okay.
myself. No, I just recognize if the opportunity, if I can do something to prevent the opportunity, like when it starts to get dark, moving the conversation to somewhere safer
Mm.
where I'm not outdoors in a dark park, you
I
know.
mean, but it feels like though, like unfortunately, it feels like just just the society we live in. I mean, just you being a woman, you probably have to do that anyway, right? just
Absolutely. I mean I can't change the world. You know, I can't change the fact that women are targeted, that people who are alone in dark spaces are targeted. Um, Parking lots, parks, all these outdoor open public spaces have higher risk
yeah,
for people. so So no, I definitely don't blame myself. Now, even okay, somebody who may be experiencing all those emotions I was experiencing, they might blame themselves and be like, "I'm so stupid. Why didn't I know that that was going to happen?" Or you know, especially if they have like family members who kind of, or and I say family members, people around them. It's not just family members. It could be friends. It could be anybody in their life or anything prior to an event like that that makes them feel like you know, I always mess up,
Mm.
or, you know, um, just those kinds of thoughts, those negative thoughts that can make someone just feel really inadequate and like
Right.
they somehow deserve or somehow did this to themselves. Um, Thankfully, I didn't have to battle with that kind of thinking. But I can easily see how someone might say to themselves, "You should have known." You know,
Hmm.
like,
So I wonder, like what it is a little tangent, but like, why would the brain? Why does the brain do us like that? Like, something that's clearly not our fault, but like, fuck you, Marcus. You're the reason why you got robbed. Like, why are our brains such jerks?
good question. So my understanding from everything that I know about the brain right now is that essentially with us being, in our most primitive sense, survivalists or trying to survive, when
Yeah,
something
we're
bad
we're
happens,
apes.
well, I wouldn't go that far, but
I mean, humans is just a type of ape. Yeah, go ahead.
I know what you mean by that. I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But to answer your question, when something bad happens, our brains try to naturally, and in a healthy brain, just tries to sort out what happened and how can I prevent that from happening again.
Hmm.
It felt bad. So it has some options. It could say um, this outside reason or person is to blame, and that's where you end up with people on the extreme side of that. You end up with narcissists who are like, nothing's my fault, everything's
Oh,
everybody else's fault,
yeah.
and I'm essentially perfect. That's the extreme version of that.
Hmm.
But sometimes it is other people's fault, so that's an option, or other outside reasons. Um, um, you could look at your actions or behaviors as playing a role and not taking full responsibility for what happened. But that's a natural and healthy way actually to look at for the brain to try to sort through what can I do differently in the future.
Hmm.
Um, but then there's the other extreme side where basically a person feels like it doesn't matter what I do, I'm to blame somehow.
Hmm.
So they can, looking at all the factors in the situation, you have outside people and things, behaviors, and self. Aside from behaviors, just self.
Right.
Um, and so the brain sorts through all of those areas to try to figure out how can I prevent this from happening in the future. What I would describe about how a person ends up constantly blaming themselves is usually when they grew up in an environment that taught them that there's nothing they can do to change the blame.
Excuse me.
So if they were the black sheep of the family or the
Right.
scapegoat, they were the bad kid, the bad brother or sister, whatever, the one that was always messing up, you know, then, and, families sometimes try to help that child the best way that they know how. It's just not always helpful.
Oh
They're
yeah.
constantly reminding them of their wrongs, and
Oh,
they
my
don't.
my mom was my first bully. What do you mean?
Great example. It's like they don't know that by pointing out the wrong, you're not teaching the child how to do things differently, and
Right.
especially if you're not getting them the mental health help that they need. A lot of families up into maybe this generation didn't even realize that that was even a factor. Like you said, they just brought everybody to church and hoped that the kids would somehow pick up on what they needed, right? um but they other than that, they didn't know how
Right.
to help the scapegoat in the
Hmm.
family. And a lot of times
So that's like
they,
years of like conditioning the brain to just think, oh, I suck, whatever. It's
I mean,
hmm.
essentially that child learns that I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't, basically.
Uh,
When I clean
folks.
up my room, I don't clean it up well
Right.
enough.
Exact.
You
Oh my
know,
God.
when when I when I try my hardest to take the test, um,
I still got a D.
I fail or whatever.
Hmm.
What were you about to say?
No, I just said I still got a D, but I mean I think that's passing though. At least in college, like that's passing. Okay, wow. So let's get into renew therapy. Is not when I first Googled it, I just want to know is that like an actual like I guess like a chain of sorts, or is that like your own thing? Because I've seen other renew therapies.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. It is my own. I wish I had a more original name because there are others who have thought of that name before me.
Yeah,
The reason why there's more than one is because
they're in different
when you
states.
get life,
Uh,
huh?
okay, yeah, no, 'cause I saw like renew therapy like in Illinois and stuff like that. So I was like, oh,
Yeah, when you get licensed as a therapist, you get licensed in your state.
hmm,
So the other renew therapies that you see are most likely going to be in another state, or they're not going to be in Georgia, or they're if they are in Georgia, and there's not a lot of them in Georgia. I found only one, but they might have a slightly different name than mine.
right, okay. So renew therapy, Georgia is strictly Praysha Spearman's business. It's no one
Yeah.
else's. All right, and I read on your site now. You said you're not covered by insurance, but you give people these things called super bills. What the fuck is that?
I'm glad you asked. So a super bill is just me providing the client with all the information they need to go to their insurance provider and say, hey, I'm receiving this service. Will you reimburse me? It's an out of network provider. Will you
Hmm.
reimburse me a percentage of what I'm paying? So I provide the client with a super bill. They give that to their insurance provider. The insurance provider, even they can call their insurance provider before they start with me to see what percentage they will reimburse them
Hmm.
for
Okay.
um, telehealth, mental health services.
Okay. So basically, like, so you'll give them a price, and then they'll talk to whoever they're with. Like, say for instance, I'm with Kaiser, so I'll talk to Kaiser, and they'll say like, okay, well, we'll reimburse this amount to you then, since they're out of network.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So my fees are $285 per hour. So I would tell that to the client, and they would go to their insurance company and say, how much will you reimburse me? And they'll give them a percentage. So they'll know, okay, I'll be paying her $225, but I'll be getting back this percentage of that every month.
All right. So it won't fuck them too hard. That's cool. Okay. So and now it says here that you do offer cer- you do individuals, couples, and families. Like what do you seem to get the most of out of the three?
Individuals,
Individuals?
definitely.
Okay.
And I'm actually thinking about niching down even more so that my website is mostly geared towards individuals. Because I do see with my title being licensed marriage and family therapist,
Yeah.
I'm definitely trained and skilled to work with marriages and families, and I've done a lot of that. However, with my specialty now being high achieving women who are I help high achieving women overcome the aftermath of sexual trauma.
Mm.
I'm usually working with individuals there. Yes, they may have a spouse or someone that they want to come into therapy with them at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm, can definitely do that. They may have a daughter or or an entire family sometimes that they want to come into the therapy session and to, have some of these conversations all together. Um, but the majority of what I'm doing is definitely now individuals.
Okay. And you said like and all your services are virtual. Like they're not in
Mhm.
person. And like that was like the plan from the beginning, or did COVID just kind of like sort of make it that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right before COVID, I went fully virtual before COVID hit the map.
Ooh, she was
Um,
virtual before it was cool.
yeah, and and I definitely don't want to thank COVID for anything, but this definitely
Thank
has
you,
has
God,
made the
for
world,
killing people with COVID so I
I
can do
have
teletherapy.
I have a lot more potential clients now. Yeah.
You know, and that was gonna be one of my one of my questions. Did COVID raise your clients number? I knew the fancy word for
Increase
it.
the amount of clients that are coming, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. You said exactly what I said, but smarter.
I know what you meant. Um, it's definitely increased the market, and but I've pretty steadily gotten the same amount of clients. And my practice has shifted in the past year. I've had it since 2017, but in the past year, um, I left my other job that I was doing so that I
Hmm.
could work completely in my practice. So in the last year, I've started seeing more clients, but that's not necessarily because of COVID so much as it is because of the changes that I've made.
Okay, and that's interesting. You said so. And now, and I'm gonna go over your methodologies that you use. You say you use solution focused therapy, narrative therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, emotion focused therapy, and integrative therapy. So now is there one in particular that you find yourself using the most?
Yes. Mostly I use, well, I kind of use two of them about the same, narrative and solution focused.
Okay.
Um,
So can you give us a brief rundown of those?
yeah. So I was going to at first say narrative because with solution focused, it's a very brief um, strategy, or it can be a brief intervention, basically solution focused. But I'll come back to that.
Okay.
Narrative is it's a it goes deeper into what the client's coming in for. The narrative therapy is a lot of things. It was developed by a few guys who some of them may still be living.
Okay, so it's
um,
fairly recent, you would say.
I'm sorry.
So like you would say this method is fairly recent? You said one of
Really,
the developers is still alive. Like,
relatively speaking, when you think about how long psychology has been around,
hmm.
marriage and family therapy, which is what I, have a license in, is relatively new.
Okay.
Like within, I don't want to say the 70s, it got more like kind of involved or whatever. Um, but it's on the up and up, I guess you would say, because it psychology has been around since 18,
Yeah.
17, I don't know, a long time. Um, so, and basically, and I'll just explain quickly the difference between the two because they're very similar. But if you think about traditional psychology, you have the person laying on the couch
Hmm.
and talking to their psychologist, and they're going, and how does that make you feel? Um, and that's because psychology thinks a bit more linearly, at least traditional psychology. Now, psychology is a bit more well rounded. If you go
Hmm.
see a licensed psychologist, you'll get something similar to what you get with me. But the trainings are a bit different. So psychology traditionally looks at what's going on in the brain and how is that causing problems for this person. Um, and then it went from, in the brain and in the body, basically inside the individual.
Yeah.
Um, Marriage and family therapy didn't come around until later when a guy who, I don't even know if he was a psychologist, I can't remember what he was, but um, he basically was like, the issues going on with these people is not just inside. Let's talk about
Hmm.
their environment, their marriages, their families.
Yeah,
And then
and
it really like,
sociologists look at that too. Like
now
communities and stuff like that.
sociology. Yes, sociology is slightly different, very similar, but slightly
Right.
different from marriage and family therapy because sociology is going to look more so on that grand scale, systemic issues of, the community
Yeah.
and um, all that stuff. So, yes, marriage and family therapy looks at that as well, but the um, methodology, like the narrative and all those other things, those things that that marriage and family therapists are trained on are going to be very in depth with the systemic, like the untangling of the web. is how they might say it.
Mm.
Okay, you're coming in here saying that you have anxiety and depression. I'm not going to focus on your symptoms and your medications and track that over time as much as I'm still going to look at those things,
Right.
but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to focus as heavily. I'm going to let your psychiatrist, help you with that more. And I'm going to I'm going to open up. I'm going to create a space that's safe for you. I'm an expert in facilitating change. So I'm an expert in creating this space where change can happen in our conversations. Um, I tell my clients the first session, one thing that I tell them the first session is, I look at you, I say, I don't know what it's like to walk the world in your shoes. And I usually say their name. I don't know what it's like to be Marcus in the world.
Right.
And I'll never know what that's like. So you'll never hear me talking as if I know what that's like. In that sense, you're the expert in your own life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an expert in facilitating change. So when we come into this space, we're collaborating together in that way.
Right.
And I forget what your question was. I feel like I'm kind of.
Oh, I just
Oh, I was
wanted to,
talking about the
yeah, just give
difference
like a
in.
rundown
Yeah.
of, yeah, narrative.
So, I mean, you'll get a similar thing now, I think, with, whether you see a licensed clinical social worker or a licensed psychologist or a licensed marriage and family therapist. I think there's some other letters out there that I'm forgetting, but those are the
Right.
main three that you'll see. Um, and then you did ask another question. I don't think I got around to it. What was it?
Oh, yeah, because you was going over narrative therapy, and you just described that, right?
Narrative therapy.
Okay.
Yeah. So now that I've talked about the differences between. So narrative therapy comes from the marriage and family therapy track, where the concepts behind narrative therapy says that um, we all have a narrative about our lives, about the problems we face, about the situations we're in. A lot of our narratives are socially constructed. That kind of throws in that social work piece
Yeah.
where the media and our upbringing and whatever else influence
Right.
the words that we
All our
use,
experiences.
right? What we believe is possible for us or not. What this means about me, that this happened
Hmm.
to me. A lot of that is socially constructed. What this means if this happens to a boy versus if this happens to a girl, whatever. Um, let's see. So, narrative therapy will facilitate a space where I can explore your narrative and get to know your near experience of whatever it is you're wanting to deal with in therapy. Um, I'm essentially trained to ask questions in a way that will make a map. Not it won't be a map. Well, it will be a map that you can see. I was going to say it won't be a map that you can see. Basically, I'll be making a map in my head long before the client sees the map.
Hmm.
By the time the client sees the map, they're already further along in the steps. But I'm in my head creating a map of what they're telling me, asking the kinds of questions anywhere in the map where I feel like it's missing, like a loophole in the story that I just don't understand. I'm like, I'm really kind of stuck here, asking questions around that to lay it all out so that then I can ask the appropriate questions for what they call unique outcomes. So if your dominant narrative is I always mess up, right? Of course this happened to me because I always mess up. Well, maybe there's some unique outcomes, some experiences that you've had that you're telling me about as you're telling me your story that I recognize that's unique to this dominant narrative that you told me.
Hmm.
That actually doesn't fit.
Wait, like, so
Um,
if the person like has like a positive story to tell you, like that would be a unique outcome, I guess. Like an example to that client in
it may
particular.
not actually be all that positive. It
Huh.
may just be unique.
Oh, okay,
So,
just different in general.
so for example, my mom always treated me that way. And then they start talking about a time where they felt really happy that their mom threw them a particular birthday party.
Okay.
So I get really curious about the unique outcomes so I can learn more about what worked there that wasn't
Hmm.
present in these, and what level of control do you have over situations like that you can now transfer over into present day, and
Hmm. Like,
continuing the things that are working.
so like, so I guess like if the person was to like just to describe how they felt during that birthday party. Okay, we got like 10 minutes left. Uh,
Oh,
hopefully
every
IG is
5 minutes.
nice to us. But anyway,
Time flies when you're having fun.
you're
Because
having fun. Okay, cool. Um, but like I guess like so the kid like describes like ah man, like my mom hugged me. She said she loved me. Like he'll be like he'll tell you experiences like that or something or
Yeah,
like
and then we kind of get into if those experiences are happening at the same time that these other experiences are happening, we process through where it's a skill for a person to be able to accept that both of those things are happening at the same time. And what does that mean? What does that mean about me? What does that mean about my mom? What does that mean about my future and what's possible of people who are supposed to be loving me, but they're also treating me like this at the same time?
yeah.
We process through all of that, all the
Okay.
stuff, if you will.
And Praysha, what I appreciated, especially about your website. Your website is fucking killer. You gotta. Did you do it, or you hired somebody, or is it just Squarespace? But anyway, it was phenomenal. But
Thank you. I did it myself, Squarespace, but I did it all myself.
hey,
I'm still working on it to make it even better, but I really
well,
appreciate
it's
it.
phenomenal. But the one thing I appreciate you writing is that you say, therapists don't necessarily cure you. They just help you to help yourself. Like, I mean, I butchered your quote, but basically, you're saying it's like
Yeah, I did not write
you're
that,
like
but I
a
get where you're saying.
you're like a you clarify that it's like your improvement is in your hands, basically. But the
Yeah,
therapist is
yeah,
just there to help you out.
that's therapeutic, that's healing for, I mean, that's what therapists, not just marriage and family therapists, but any good therapist you find, it really doesn't, I would say good therapy is not necessarily in the title so much as it is just some people are kind of, how some people are like more skilled and gifted and have a grace to kind of do certain things that other people
Yeah,
would never ever do. So you just
right.
have people like that. But but yeah, to be able to create that space to put the process back into the client's hands in a way that they're not experiencing all the same pressures they would if they were having these conversations in other spaces
Right.
and with other.
Cool. And and you said that one of your I'm trying to get some good questions in here real quick. You said that one of your inspirations to do the things you do is because unfortunately, you know, Atlanta is one of the top uh trafficking sites. And you said, but the fact that human trafficking exists is one of the reasons why you wanted to get in here, because you mentioned that you want to focus on, what you say, high achieving women who
Right,
unfortunately suffered a sexual assault.
right.
Why just the high
Yeah.
achieving?
What was that?
So why just the high achieving? I'm just like
Yeah,
I'm
no,
messing
good
with you, but
question.
like,
No, great question. I'll answer that. So you're right. I got interested in doing therapy well, the truth is I went into college as a psychology major, and then I switched after the first psychology class. I was like, I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life because it was all like memorizing stuff about like medicines in the brain and Sigmund Freud, and I was just like, I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. I don't know what I want to do. So then I graduated as a business major and found out about the marriage and family therapy graduate school, which was more so focused on, it was very diverse, but it was also more so focused on what methods do we use to help someone move and change from where they are to where they want to go or need to go? Okay, so let me. What was your question? Oh, yeah. So, so before I knew that I was going to the graduate school, and I thought I was just going to be like a manager at Sherwin-Williams Paint Company, I found out
Sherwin
about human
Williams.
trafficking. I found out about human trafficking, and it just struck me, like, oh my gosh, this happens.
Right. You know, because I remember in Valdosta there was a program where some lady came and she showed like a little documentary about it. You know, I was there with my friend Sydney, and I was thinking like what really struck me was they make millions of dollars and they barely get caught. But you know, just because unfortunately, like America, except for Nevada, be tripping when it comes to sex work. So I mean, it's like they can't run to the police, and oftentimes these women are foreign and they don't think they can trust the police anyhow. But yeah, that was just I was like, whoa! It's like I didn't know it was booming like that. So, so I guess but I mean, obviously these women aren't the high achieving women you talk to. I mean, like,
Right.
so
Well,
yeah, go
to
ahead.
answer your question about why, so ultimately, because of exposure to that, I got really impassioned about this idea that I would one day, and it's still in the like this wakes me up every morning, is the idea that I will have a residential program of some sort one day that allows women who have come out of that lifestyle, I guess you would say, I don't know if you want to call it lifestyle, but out of human trafficking, who have survived human
Mm,
trafficking, to be able to rehabilitate.
that would
So
be awesome.
yes, that's the goal. And so yeah, they can't afford, full fee therapy. Um, but unfortunately, there's enough high achieving women who have experienced sexual trauma of some sort, whether it's intimate partner violence, date rape, or
Mm,
childhood trauma, you know, or all kinds of things. Harassment even falls under
mm.
sexual trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh man, that's heavy.
anybody seeking to a lot of my clients right now are people who they are high achieving. They have raised children, sometimes have their own businesses or work in high achieving areas or whatever. Um, but they realize even at this stage in their life, whether they, some of them they're like first generation college
Yeah,
graduates, so they're very high achieving in all different levels of their life, but they still like, of course this was a life-changing thing that happened to them that at that age they weren't able to really process, or at that time in their life it was so chaotic at that time they didn't seek out therapy at that time. It's a very after trauma, sexual trauma, you don't usually run to tell,
right,
or talk, you're definitely not seeking to, oh, let me go tell someone.
right,
It's more so, let me get back to normal, let me get back to okay, because it's like so jarring of an
right. And you
experience.
don't want to deal with it, you know, like
Yeah,
sometimes,
you're like,
like,
yeah, you're like trying to get back to
mm,
stable, essentially. So a lot of my clients are like at the point where stable has kind of happened for them, and now they're at a space where they feel safe enough, to process
mm.
how that impacts them. So
Okay, so it's more so. So I guess like these women are like making that conscious decision. It's like, okay, well, I live my life or whatever, so let me go to Mrs. Spearman and you know, try to unpack this and get past it.
right.
Man. Well, we're at the 1 minute mark. Praysha, I really appreciate you coming here and giving us a Psych 1101 lesson.
No, I appreciate. Yeah, I know, right? I appreciate it.
and
I guess
uh,
I definitely feel like I just
and I
tried to
hope I
ask
didn't
you.
fuck up your brand too much. I know you got a wholesome brand, but you know, I behave myself. I think think I did a good job.
Yes, you were a good host today. I
And
appreciate you inviting me onto the show.
yeah, we definitely got to bring you back. I mean, because I know you did say you was willing to talk religion with me one day. So I mean, but also too, I mean, I definitely want to have like a part two to this therapy conversation because I really want to get into renew therapy. But please give your shout outs real quick, man. We got like seconds left.
Yes, at Renew Therapy GA. That is my handle on now on TikTok as well. I just started a TikTok. On
All right.
IG, on Facebook, it's Renew Therapy LLC, but mainly Renew Therapy GA on IG it would be the main thing to follow. And then my website is renewtherapyga.com.
All
So
right.
if
So
anyone's interested in therapy, reach out to me on my website.
exactly. So I mean, she'll treat anybody, but if you are a young woman, she's definitely the one for you. You know.
Yeah, we'll do a consultation, and if you're not a good fit for any reason, finances or anything else, I will definitely. I'm well connected with the therapy community and can make sure that people get connected with good therapists. So feel free to reach out.
All right, Praise, man. Give Daryl a dap for me and pet Joy extra for me. All right. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Marcus. See you later.
Bye.